If you know nothing about tariffs, don't feel bad. That's why you clicked on this video.
The most beautiful word in the dictionary is tariff. And
here's how tariffs work. In the case of no tariffs, a company, let's call it Y, in the US buys an expensive jumbo pack of instant food from Mini BD, a company in China, for $100 to sell it to you for $200 and gets a $100 profit, because that's the only legal way that it is happening. In the case where there are tariffs in place, let's say a carefully calculated, non-arbitrary number of
46%,
half of 90.41%, 52.4% including the pre-existing 6.4% of $100, $52.4. The tariff is, the US company still pays the Chinese exactly $100 according to their contract. How much is the US company going to sell the noodle for? The Chinese do not care. That's the US company's problem. When the noodle arrives at a US port, it is taken into customs custody, at the time, not yet imported into the US. The US company pays the $52.4 tariff to US customs, and ultimately the US government, technically, the US company can just pay the tariff and not pay the Chinese one to clear and get the noodle out of the US port into the mainland. If not, it will be held there for a certain amount of time before being got rid of. Now, if China wants this noodle to be totally wiped out of the US market, it can impose a 125% duty on all export to the US in retaliation to the 46%. In this case, it is only now, not at the announcement of the 46%, now that the Chinese company will actually raise the price to compensate for the tax that they now have to pay to their government. Let's say 100% of the exporting tax, $125. In this case, the Chinese company needs to pay $125 to the Chinese customs to get the goods off the China port, and the US company needs to pay $52.4 to the US customs, not the CCP, the US government, to get the goods out of the US customs custody and into the mainland. And if they're feeling generous, $225 to the Chinese company, as in their new contract. Companies operating on margins no more than the 10% baseline tariffs, like third-party manufacturers, so most manufacturers or grocery stores will pass them on in their entirety. The ones operating on selling at a premium and higher margins, let's say 50% for example, can theoretically absorb some of the tariffs, but I mean, it's corporate greed we're talking about. Do you really think that's going to happen? Corporate greed raises price on the basis of social engineering / behaviors, whether in case of increased cost of production or not. It's the consumers are the ones that should be scared of the instabilities. All consumers, not just the end consumers. Every announcement of a new round of tariffs is a chance for corporate greed to normalize permanent price increases. Once they have raised the prices, there will be no goddamn way to get them down. How effective is this? In doing what? Why do all this? 2 words. Tax cuts. Not to issue more tax cuts, but to take tax cuts back from who he personally promised to give it to who promised him personal funding.